in your investigations so far into Advaita, what do you find to be kind of stopping you? Where's your stumbling block in all this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, how do you get from the certainty that all one thinks, perceives, feels is consciousness? I mean, this is the only thing we can be certain about, yes? Seems to me, that I exist.
Okay. Yes.
How do you get from that to like the conviction that there is one consciousness and that everybody partakes of this one consciousness, and that the external world is this consciousness somehow projected outwards, I guess. I don't even know how to phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get from the inside to to the all?
You don't, essentially. It is not something, there's no how-to in this. It certainly can and does happen that such a understanding, non-intellectual understanding, does occur. The structure of it is quite different from what we normally experience in knowing things, in which I know something.
Yeah.
I know this to be true. I know that this is all a unity. I know that we are an expression of a single source. That kind of knowing is intellectual in nature. It has to be. It's conceptual. The mystical knowing, which is the realm of the mystics, this is this kind of strange, amorphous, nonsensical kind of knowing that we point to and talk about, and that any intellectual worth his salt dismisses immediately, but is what we are concerned with. That essence is here, is already true. So what we're really talking about is the stripping away of misconception, stripping away of illusion. I'm sure you've come across in your Sanskrit reading. This is the process, if you will, in which this teaching engages. It is the stripping away of the falseness, and what is left is the truth.
Yeah.
Now, curiously, it kind of comes back on itself, because what is finally realized is that even that illusion is part of this truth. So yes, it gets, quote, stripped away, but its presence, when it is present, is part of the truth.
It's a beautiful thought.
And so that's what the teaching is pointing toward. And this teaching, what I call it the living teaching, because it is concerned with this quality of existence, of being alive, that we have, and to delve more deeply into it, to strip away some of the false senses associated with it. And primary among these false senses is what I call the false sense of authorship. The sense that I, as this name and form, am separate and independent of other things. And as such, and have power, independent power, that I can author things. I'm responsible. I can make things happen from my own power. This is the fundamental false sense, and it arises in every human being at the age of about 2 years old. And so this teaching is concerned with pointing to this in the hope that in the pointing to it, you may see it. In the seeing of it, you may see through it. Because when you truly see this false sense of authorship, what you see is it is a false sense of authorship. So in seeing it, its falseness is simply revealed. It is in the non-seeing of it that it has life, that it's a tacit part of you, a tacit claim on your being. But it is only in the darkness that it functions.
So it's like flipping a switch. The light goes on.
That's right.
It's sort of effortless.
Well, it may be effortless. I mean, there may be effort along the way, a tremendous amount of effort along the way. You may study Sanskrit. You may do incredibly complex and difficult practices. You may exert enormous number of hours and energies to get to the point where the switch gets flipped.
Yeah.
And in some cases, all of those things are part of the process. In other people, they're not. So they're not a requirement, but they're not wasted either. If they are there, they are integral. They are essential. They are inescapable. So if you find yourself making efforts, the understanding that this teaching points to is that those efforts are truly, ultimately not your efforts. Those efforts are on efforts that you make on the part of the universe. And that you have been empowered to make those efforts. You've been, quote, directed to make those efforts. And so you make those efforts. The claim of authorship is that when I make those efforts are authored by me. That I'm responsible for them. They are independently mine. Not mine as the actor of them, but mine as the author of them. And that's the subtle distinction that we're concerned with here. The difference between being the performer, the doer of the action, and the author of the action.
So we're always the doer of the action.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
And how does one give up that authorship?
Once again, the how to, there's a thousand different ways in which the giving up may happen. In this teaching, there is no prescription of do this, do that, nor is there any suggestion that you shouldn't do something. That, oh no, that's a waste of your time. That's stupid. To do yoga or to study this or study that or do this practice, that's a waste of time is simply not part of what this teaching is. It's an acknowledgement, a recognition that you are moved to do things. The thought comes into your head to do something. And the result, what we call the result of that, may be what you desire, or it may not be. And if you look deeply into it, you see that neither the action itself nor the result were ever in your ultimate control. That you were truly the instrument through which this happened or didn't happen.
Yes. I sometimes feel that the idea of authorship just creeps in unknowingly.
Yeah.
And it's just there until you recognize it, you can drop it, it comes back, and it's just a struggle, ongoing.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. And that is the plight of the seeker. That it is a struggle because you do sometimes recognize it. Those who are not seekers never recognize it. There's no question of, oh, it comes and goes. It never goes. It's always there, essentially. And so that plight is truly the plight of the seeker. But none of us chose to be seekers in the first place. That was another thing that we are given. A dubious gift sometimes, especially when it feels difficult and painful and frustrating. But a glorious gift other times when it's liberating and spacious and